Hello everyone, I'm Alan, also known as McLaren 2009, and today I'm playing Derail Valley. I am currently in City Southwest, looking for a job that's preferably going to take me back to the harbor. But that might not necessarily happen. Alright, well, this one's going up to the steel mill. That would be pretty cool. That's just scrap metal. Alright, so we can do shunting jobs. We can do logistics haul going back to the harbor. And the advantage of doing this one is when we get to Oil Well Central, we can probably pick up something that's actually worth money going to the harbor. So I'm thinking this is going to be the way to go. Alright, let's get started. Let's get that set up. Alright, good. It's on the C track, so all we gotta do is just go over here. And 4S. Okay. Alright, it's right here. Alright, make sure this flat car up front is the right one. CFF 625. Alright, cool. And a couple of box cars back there. So we need to switch this. You know what? Just because it's going to be such a pain to deal with it, let's just clear the caboose. That won't cost any money. Okay. So we have our two locomotives over here, 76, 77. We're going to keep them both. Okay, let's not do that. All right. Now it'll be interesting because they're both connected with the MU cable. Incorrectly, but it's whatever. Cab lights on. And brake chamber is getting filled up. Alright, so let's get the second locomotive fired up. Alright, now this one is going to be a little bit interesting because more than likely what I'm going to have to do is when I get to the oil well, I'm going to have to dump this cut of cars on the main track, pull forward, back up to the loaded cars, and then put them in front of those cars, or in front of the empty cars. Alright, now we gotta set up the remote. Alright, let's go up here onto this one, pair it, go forward, and we're already lined up to go back onto the main track. And we look at the map real quick. Our caboose ended up over there. Although really, if I'm feeling dedicated, I can just spawn the caboose at the back of this cut of cars. Matter of fact, how much money do I have? I have over $1 million. I absolutely can go back and spawn my caboose behind those cars. And we can also flip this switch. But we're gonna go from there. Alright, where is this going? D track. Okay. We can work with that. Alright, we are past the line. Let's reverse. It's interesting because this remote has more than 8 positions, yet there are only 8 positions on the throttle up there in the cab. Alright. Yeah, so basically it just gets a little bit weird when you look at the remote and you're setting it to a throttle position, but you realize that there's like 12 notches on here, but only 8 in there. So you have like this weird thing happen where you try to use the throttle on the remote and then you get into the cab and it's just, it kind of has to like click up another notch. You've got more control with this, or like more flexibility with this, but the fact that they're not really like compatible is a little bit weird, and it's just weird. Let's leave it at that. Alright, since I actually do like that idea, let's go back here. And... Huh. Oh, that's something. Alright, it's going to be a bit of a process. Because I can't do anything with these. So, I gotta go back up here. And we're going to have to pull this forward if we truly want to put the caboose back there. And that is going to be way too fast. Alright, let's see if this is too fast or if this is fine. This is 8 kilometers an hour. If the general rule of thumb is you can couple at 5, this should be fine. 100, 99. Okay, so that is a no on 7 kilometers an hour. All right. Learning has occurred. Now, is only this one damaged? Yeah. Alright, so do not hit the cars at 7 kilometers an hour. Which means there's going to be some damage we gotta fix. But, given how it's relatively minor, it won't be that big of a deal in the long run. Alright, let's grab my remote. Okay. Alright, now, let's give that a couple of seconds because we did apply the train brake, so it's got to build back up pressure. It's like a negligible application, but at the same time, it's still got to build up pressure. Alright. Now this is 20,000 kilograms, and this should be like 19,000. Oh, no, this is 22,000. Alright, so it's in the wrong order, but it's not the end of the world. It's another one of those, if it was loaded, it would make a world of difference. Matter of fact, we might actually be able to just pay the fees on that one right now. Okay, sweet. Now we should go back up front. Did I couple in the car? Yeah, I did. Okay, we should go back up front, and the front car should now be not repaired, but whatever. Alright, so flip it back into forward. Alright. Although I guess, to be fair, it wouldn't really be repaired yet. Kind of have to... I think we have to finish the job first. And since we came in a little bit hot, and love tapped the car, it's... you probably have to wait for it to get turned in, and then you get the final cost. At least that's my guess as to how it probably works. Wait, why am I trying to flip this switch? I need to flip this switch to get back lined up with the inbound track. But there absolutely will be jobs going to the harbor coming out of the oil well. Alright. And let's get my caboose past this switch. And all will be right in the world. Alright, we're back lined up with the inbound track. Now we go over here. Should be on this side, I think. And we'll throttle up through here. Get up around maybe 15 should probably be good. Alright, and then we gotta flip this switch to go back straight so that we're ready to back in with our next load. Alright. So we're rolling, we're moving. All is right in the world. There's our caboose. Let's get it. Since it's going this way, we gotta be well past the switch. Alright. Lined up, back going straight again. Now we got this switch over here. Let's see. Yep, it's this way. We have to flip this switch to go that way. Because we want to keep the main line open so that you can keep like a running loop through this area. And also, it's my personal practice that I always go out past and back in anyway. Alright. Pass the switch. Turn this off. And let's go catch a train. No. Okay. And let's grab this. Drop it down right there. Put this away. And let's throttle up a little bit. Have a very short train this time. And then there's a slim chance we might be able to get something from the farm, but I'm not going to hold my breath on that. Because more than likely the stuff going from the farm is going to go towards like the food factory. Sometimes the goods factory, and maybe City Southwest. But the farm is pretty small of an industry in this game. Alright, so basically to kind of summarize what I've got going on, I've got a couple of empty cars for a logistics haul going from City Southwest back to the harbor. My current plan is to stop at Oil Well Central, pick up some oil or fuel, something, going to the harbor. And I've already had a minor mishap in that I backed up a little bit too fast and did some minor damage to the first flat car right there. I found out you do not want to bump into the cars at 7 kilometers an hour. It does some very minor damage. So, live and learn. So I guess it's safe to assume that the proper coupling speed is 4 miles an hour or less. Because 5 is just a little too hard. Or at least that's the way that it seems. And after backing up to the cars, I decided to mix in my... Oh, come on. Alright. Emergency stop. Okay, the speed limit was 30 kilometers an hour. But what derailed? Is it a... I was talking in the previous episode about improper weight distribution causing a string line derailment. That's what that is. The box cars are heavier than the flat cars, and the caboose is heavier than the box cars. So basically, we have the locomotives are heavy, the box cars and the caboose are heavy, the flat cars are not. And the first flat car, the one that I've already broke on this trip, just derailed. Alright, so let's grab our remote real quick. Okay. And it's not doing us any favors that we already broke, or we already damaged the car. What the? No. Whatever you're doing, stop it. Okay. What? Okay. So, got this coupled back in. We might be close enough to couple this in, but I kind of have my doubts. I don't know if it works. Alright. Now we should be tied in. Make sure I hit the air valves. I did. But we should probably play it safe and see if anything else derailed along the line. Basically, nothing about this delivery is the way it's supposed to be. And now we just seen in practice what happens when you do not properly distribute your weight. Okay. So, moral is, make sure you configure your trains properly. Otherwise, this happens. It hasn't even been 5 minutes. And they've switched places. Like, I climbed out of the locomotive, the front was connected to the back, even though I connected it from the back to the front originally, before I even came out to City Southwest. And now it's reversed again. I swear, this game is actually trying to mess with me. It's trying to make me feel like I'm gone completely insane. Let's not go 3. Alright. More than likely, that is not going to be the last derailment for this trip. Get to the oil well. Basically, I should have configured it. I should have moved the box cars up to the front. Not even bothered with the caboose. And then just went from there. But no, I wanted to bring the caboose along because I like the caboose. Just that curve right there has a bad habit of breaking apart locomotives for me. So instead of breaking apart the locomotive, it derailed a car in the middle. Never a dull moment with this game. Alright. Let's speed up a little bit. Now let's hit the horn for good luck. Now I actually did go through last night and verified the integrity of my game files. So it re-downloaded basically the whole game. So everything should be working as it's supposed to. station office is all the way over on the other end. But we're going to stop kind of in the middle here and remove the empty cut of cars. And we're going to see if we can get a preferably loaded freight delivery running back to the harbor. That's the plan, anyway. Alright, let's apply a little bit of the train brake. That, let it build pressure back up, and I think the caboose is safely on the tracks, or at least on this part of the track. And let's stop here. Alright, fully set the independent. And we go back here and disconnect these. Hang that over there. Drop that. Okay. Let's also grab the remote, because we're going to need it. And I need to jump over there. Alright, we need something going to the harbor. Ooh, we can have two somethings going to the harbor. Crude oil, crude oil. No. Alright. Let's do them both. Why not? Alright, we're going to couple into 23 first, and 12 will be in the middle. B1, B4. Okay. So, alright, B4. Alright, so first we gotta go over here. Wait, what? Alright, so 1, 2, 3, 4. Alright. Let's throttle up. Alright, we gotta get to here. Yeah, this is B10. And then 2's the main line. 3 and 4. I could also bring those 2 or 3 cars with me. me double check. So at least now I know it's going to update. My locomotives went a little too far. They didn't need to go that far. Alright, let's keep it going that speed. And the first ones will be 337 or 763. That appears to have an orange stripe. So let's see, what do we got? 337. Okay, so this cut of cars is good. How much do you want to bet this is the other cut of cars? Let's go check. Because, I mean, we can bring those along too. Yeah, 45. The problem is these are pretty long. So it might not be a good idea to do it that way. And our train stopped. Alright. And we don't know where these are going. It should go to the C track. Alright, that's going to C2. And this is going to C2. Yeah, I don't know how... I don't know off the top of my head how big that track is. Alright, let's check on this again, because... Okay. Slow it down. Okay. That. Couple that. Alright, next up is 4. Should already be lined for 4, I think. Yeah, there's 3. This is going into 4. Alright, so let's go forward. And then we gotta go to this switch, and once that's pulled out, we'll realign this so that it goes back onto those cars over there. Because we're still getting that logistics haul back to the harbor. And then we have this one's going left and that one's going right. Okay. All is right in the world. like how there are doors on both sides, but you can only access the engine compartment from one side. I don't think you can interact with those doors. And I think on the real ones, the other side, the doors go to something else. Like there's another reason to open the doors other than just starting the engine. Probably doing maintenance. Back aligned. Now we go over to here, and once we're past this switch, we can back up to the second cut of cars. Alright, let's turn on the independent, slightly apply the train brake, knock off the train brake. And let's throttle up, knock off the independent. Let's bump into this other set of cars. Oh, I didn't pull the little safety straps on my controllers. It's a good thing this isn't a very intense game. Alright, let's slow it down a little bit. Because now we definitively know that that is too high. We're gonna have to do some pretty creative switching to get the logistics cars onto the D track and both of these onto the C track. So what we're gonna do, gonna pull into the harbor, go past the C track, back both of these up onto C2 inbound, and then pull forward going the opposite direction around the Y, and then back up onto the D track. And then we'll probably have to clear the caboose again. Otherwise, I'm just gonna leave it on the D track. But considering we're getting, I don't know, like 50 grand from this, we should still be able to pull off about a $20,000 profit. Maybe. I'm not sure what changed with my settings, but now I can actually hear the background music I selected. Before I couldn't hear it in the headset, I just had to kind of like take it on faith that it was playing through Streamlabs. but now it's working for some reason or another. I found out early on that this isn't the most exciting thing to watch. If you are just sitting here in silence listening to me ramble on about things I don't know a whole lot about. Alright. I should not be on this side, I should be on this side. Is this right here is the switch I need. Or actually no, that is the switch I need. Not this one, that one. Is this goes to 3 for that other cut of cars. I mean, I could bring them too, but I'm already having some doubts as to whether or not these are gonna fit. Oh, actually, my problems are going to be even more complicated because the logistics cars are on the back, so they got to go in first. Okay, so we're going to have to turn around in the C track so that we can back up to the D track to dump off those cars? Oh, this is going to be interesting. But that's one of the things that actually makes this game really, really cool. It's kind of like a puzzle to try to get things where they need to be. And then even when you do like the yard switching jobs in like Train Sim World, for example, it's pretty cool when you're like, okay, I'm on this track, I gotta get to that track, what's the best way to do it? And you have that same thing, or that same kind of problem here in this game. Yeah. It's always reassuring when you look at the cars and they try to make them look like weathered, but the way they chose to do it is to make it look like they're leaking. As an environmental compliance coordinator for the Marine Corps at one point, one of the things you're supposed to look for when evaluating like a container for hazardous materials. Did I flip the wrong switch? Yeah, I did. But one of the things you have to look for is whether there are any obvious signs of leaks. And oil dripping down the sides, that is a very obvious sign of a leak. And then, like, we have this thing. Just think of it as a cradle to the grave. And what we mean by that is from the moment a hazardous material is created, there is a line of custody, or there's a chain of custody from the moment it's created until the moment it's destroyed. And if this were like a truck, for example, I would reject this load. I would not pick up a trailer that is leaking, because if it's leaking, the material is not contained, and it's going to continue to leak en route. And then when it inevitably leaks somewhere and damages something, I am now responsible for that load. So it's going to be on me when it leaks. And since it's already leaking, or at least it looks like it is, it's now my problem. Well, technically it would be my company's problem, but my company is going to make it my problem. So never accept leaking containers, because it's in your custody when the leak, quote unquote, occurred. Or you accepted it leaking, so when it gets inspected, they're going to find the same leak that you did, and you accepted it, so therefore you're okay with it. And now your day is going to get a lot worse. But the reason for all of those procedures, rules, the consequences of not doing it correctly, all of that is in the interests of protecting the environment and preventing a catastrophic release. You just don't want a spill, you don't want to destroy the environment. So you look for these types of things, because at least to me, it's really important that you don't do those things. And sticking with the truck example, I am really proud of the fact that I was able to easily get my endorsement to carry hazardous materials. I would not risk losing that endorsement over a questionable container. And a real story about that goes back to the first time I ever pulled hazmat. I picked it up from a company. I won't specify which company or where I picked it up, but point is, picked it up at a warehouse. When I was dispatched out to this place, I was told I was hauling bleach. Sodium hypochlorite. I was told I was exclusively hauling bleach, so approximately 42,000 pounds of just bleach. And I got specific instructions from my company that after I pull away from the dock, but before I seal the trailer on my truck, I have to physically climb into the trailer and verify that the markings on the box, or on all the boxes, on all the pallets, match up with the manifest. So I have to verify that I am absolutely carrying the thing I'm supposed to be carrying, and make sure that nothing's leaking. Now, when I got my hazmat endorsement, I learned about the legal requirement that I have to make sure that if I'm carrying a hazardous container, that nothing is damaged and nothing is leaking. I'm legally required to inspect the load to make sure that it is serviceable and I can safely transport it. Well, according to the company that I was picking the load up from, I was not hauling hazmat. They said it was completely not dangerous in the slightest. So you can just take it and go down the road, no problem. Well, there's just one slight problem. The company I was working for at the time, when I got hired on, they told me, download this application so that it can tell you, or it can help you make sure that you're complying with DOT regulations for transporting hazmat. So you type in a UN number and how much of it you have, and it'll tell you what placards you need for your trailer. Well, I remembered from my chemistry classes, because that's a thing I don't talk about a lot, but when I was a college student, I was specifically studying chemistry. And all this stems back to when I was in the Marine Corps and got interested in environmental protection. So I knew that the proper technical name for bleach is sodium hypochlorite. So I pulled out what we have here in the US, just an emergency response guidebook. It's this little orange book that you have to carry with you anytime you're around hazmat, so you know what it is and how to respond to an emergency involving those materials. So I looked up sodium hypochlorite in my emergency response guidebook. It gave me the UN number. I put the UN number into my little phone application and said, I have approximately 42,000 pounds of this specific UN number. So I have 42,000 pounds of this chemical. 21 tons. And I hit add to current load, type in my trip number, all that fun stuff. And it hit next. It immediately told me to placard the trailer hazard class 8 for caustic and corrosive. So legally, the trailer absolutely is hazardous material. And a little fun fact, well, it's going to be one of those fun facts that's not very fun, but you want to know what is considered a reportable quantity of bleach? And in case you're wondering, a reportable quantity is the threshold under which, if you are less than that amount of that specific chemical, that chemical does not need to be placarded. If you are over that quantity, the specific chemical requires a placard. Well, the reportable quantity for bleach is 200 pounds. So basically, if you have like a single pallet of bleach, you are carrying a reportable quantity of a hazardous material. And that reportable quantity has to be labeled accordingly. And if you are pulling a trailer that has hazmat placards on it, you have to have a hazardous materials endorsement on your commercial driver's license. Now, that is not easy to get. Like, you have to get what amounts to a security clearance from the U.S. Department of Transportation. Well, technically the TSA, Transportation Safety Administration, where they have to check your background and make sure that you're not like a security risk or like a threat to the country, basically. And if you pull a trailer with placards and you don't have the endorsement, not only can you potentially lose your license, you can potentially go to jail. So having that, or going through the process of having that endorsement, is not something that I personally take lightly. And when I found out that since I'm trying to switch from driving trucks to working for the railroad, I found out that the FRA doesn't have an endorsement like I have for my CDL, but there is an equivalent, or there is a comparable system where only people trained to handle hazmat can actually load, unload, do maintenance on those specific cars, and even some cases only specially trained people are going to couple to those cars, and you have to be trained how to handle hazmat by whatever company that you work for. So it was kind of cool when I found out that if I do become a licensed conductor, it won't be so much a matter of having like an endorsement on the license saying I'm a trained conductor. It'll just be something in my file with the company that says I'm one of the people that's qualified to work with hazmat. Oh, let's see if we're even strong enough to climb this hill. Alright, we're in notch 4, and we're still going. Or, it might be 6. Alright, we are pulling, sort of. Oh, this is not going to be fun. If we gotta back up and get a faster run at this, that's what I'll do. Oh, we are barely making this climb. That turn right there is one of the like steepest grades in this game, and it's in the most random of places. But in theory, once we get most of the tanker cars up this hill, it'll be easy and we'll take off like a rocket. But we gotta get there first. And we can look on the map down here, and since the caboose is on the map, we can see when the back of the train clears the curve. Now, this is going uphill, but it's not nearly as steep as that hill. But if you look down here, our wheels are not slipping yet, and we are accelerating. Slowly, but we're accelerating all the same. So, kind of continuing with what I was saying, I have a really big interest in chemistry, hazmat, and environmental protection. So I take those things very seriously. In my opinion, it's kind of important to take those things serious. For some reason or another, it means a lot to me. Basically, kind of a bit of a story time sort of thing. My first class about hazmat, I didn't have a choice in the matter. I kind of got what we would jokingly call voluntold to be a hazardous waste handler. Had to take a class on the Resource Conservation and Recovery Act, a law passed back in the 70s after an incident, or in relatively close proximity to an incident up near Niagara, New York. It's just remembered solely as the Love Canal incident. Basically, there was a guy who wanted to make a canal that would go to the Niagara River, and it would allow more more ship traffic going to the river, and you could carry more stuff that way. Well, the foundation that manages the Niagara River decided they didn't want the canal being dug. It would be damaging to make it, and it would do more harm than good, so they ultimately canceled the project. But the problem was the guy had already started digging. So now you've got this trench that leads nowhere. And over time, there was a chemical factory on this what would have been a canal, but now it's just a trench. And they just started discarding chemicals, just throwing drums, pumping liquids into this canal. Well, eventually they decided that this doesn't look very nice. It's rather ugly to look at, in fact. So let's just cover it over and make it so that you can't see it anymore. Well, that's where the problem started. See, they just covered it over and they kind of forgot about it. Well, literally a few decades later, chemicals start seeping up through the ground. They start getting into groundwater, into wells. They start seeping up through the ground, and like kids are playing in their yards and getting severe chemical burns from the stuff that's just in the grass now. And it was like this borderline national emergency where they had to evacuate the area. They tried to remediate it, tried seeing if they could get the chemicals out. Well, they couldn't get all of them out, so they went with another plan to see if they could kind of build like a dam around it to try to keep it contained so that at least it wouldn't be leaking anymore. And now the area is deemed safe to live in again, but there's still like this, I want to say, like clay sarcophagus around a majority of the chemicals so that it won't leak anymore, but that area is still being remediated. And then I found out about that incident from the very first time I had to take the class on what we just call RCRA for short. And that was the first time I took the class. You got to take the class again every year to stay qualified. So I didn't have a choice to become qualified with hazmat. I kind of got signed up for it. But the following year, when I got in on the class to recertify to stay working with hazmat, I found out about the class to become an environmental compliance coordinator. So I could do like the inspections on our secondary containment berm for our bulk storage of liquid drums. I could properly manage our waste sites, inspect them, make sure that they're still safe, they're still contained. I did that by choice. And then later on, I would take another optional class, or another voluntary class, where I learned about the specifics of what makes hazardous waste hazardous and how you actually dispose of it. And in that class, they showed us a map of Superfund sites. It pertains to a regulation called SARA. Superfund, something about funding and getting funding for remediation of those sites. And on that map, it shows areas just in the continental US of sites that are red, or they're marked with a red dot saying those sites are in urgent need of remediation. Then there are yellow sites which are being remediated, or are less severe, or are still in need of remediation, but they're less severe. And then there are green dots, which are sites that have been remediated and are deemed safe. And the problem that I had with that map was there was an uncomfortably high number of red dots, an even higher number of yellow dots, and not a whole lot of green dots. So I kind of had like this moment of pause where I was like, if even a handful of those red dots are anything like the Love Canal incident, then that's pretty bad. That needs to be fixed. And I kind of got interested in environmental protection from that point forward. So shortly after that class, I did my first instance of hazardous waste operations and emergency response, where I could learn to properly respond to a hazmat spill. And I could put on an encapsulated bubble suit and be one of the people that responds to those types of emergencies. I actually have the video on my YouTube channel of the second time I did the class. The video's kinda controversial on my channel because a bunch of people went out of their way to tell me that my training was bad because we didn't have like properly functioning suits. We just had the damaged, torn suits that weren't even good enough to be called training tools. So we didn't properly get the dress out experience that you would want. Like, for instance, level A suit is fully encapsulated. So once you're zipped into the suit, you're in a completely different environment. You need to have an independent air supply, or you'll suffocate. So inside of the suit, you have to wear a self-contained breathing apparatus, or you could have an air supplied externally through like an umbilical cord. But our suits were ripped, so we didn't need the SCBA. The first time I took the course, we had a firefighter who was taking the course to get to keep his credentials good, and he brought in one of the SCBAs from the fire station, and we did get to wear one just to kind of see how it feels, but we didn't need it. Our suits were not properly encapsulated. But it was still really cool because I did the class in the middle of the summer the first time, so it was already like 100 degrees in North Carolina. And then to go inside of a suit with no ventilation and no proper air supply meant it was just an uncomfortable experience, to say the least. But it was another step in the process of actually getting a second MOS in the Marine Corps to specifically handle hazmat. I found out that there's some kind of Marine Corps order or regulation that basically every command that's like battalion strength has to have 2 people at a minimum in their command that have this MOS. I'm pretty sure we had more than 2, but I was one of them. And I found out later on that that might have something to do with why the Sergeant Major knew who I was, and that I was the NCOIC of Hazmat for my department. I don't know that with any degree of certainty, but it makes sense. So yeah, I got out of the Marine Corps and I wanted to go back to school to learn about chemistry. I wanted to work my way up to being what would be a hazmat specialist. Usually somebody who has like generally a PhD level of education and a lot of specialized training to handle emergencies relating to the release of chemicals. And then I started thinking, well, if I'm going to be a doctor of anything, why not a medical doctor? Well, then I found out about a program through the University of Virginia called the Medical Scientist Training Program. I found out that why be one kind of doctor when you can be both? So it's an 8-year program where you earn both a medical doctorate and a PhD in a medical-related lab science. And the one that immediately got my attention and pretty much jumped off the page at me was not the medical program, oddly enough. Apparently, statistically, if you become a medical scientist, I guess the most common thing is to, for your medical specialization, most people do internal medicine for their medical specialty. And that seemed pretty cool to me anyway, just the idea of like treating diseases and things like that. But the thing that got my attention about the program wasn't the medical specialty, because you can learn internal medicine from any medical school. Some would even argue that it barely counts as a specialization as a medical doctor is concerned. Like, if that's your specialty, you don't generally claim to have a specialty. But the thing that got my attention was the PhD in biochemistry, specializing in infectious substances and bioterrorism defense. That was like, just reading what that program entails, it's just like, wow, that's like the coolest thing ever. That would be like having a doctorate in hazmat. Sign me up. Well, it turns out that program is really, really selective and really hard to get into. So I took a break for a little while from my college coursework and started driving trucks for a little while. Now I'm trying to get into the railroad instead. And it's just been a journey. So it's kind of up in the air if I'm going to get back to that path. No, I need this back. And let's set the brakes a little bit. Had a couple of times on this trip where I thought I was going to derail again. Alright, let's climb out, because we're going to get up to this point right here where we gotta get down there. So yeah, it's kind of up in the air with whether or not I'm going to continue that journey. And if it's just a temporary break from school, or if I'm going to a different career entirely. But that was the original plan, and that's the backstory behind why I chose the path that I did. But I never completely went away from that path. Like when I decided that I was taking a break from school to drive trucks, I had already decided that after I got my license, I was absolutely getting my hazmat endorsement. And so I did. Be interesting to see if this is going to work out. And let's keep checking on that. Alright, we gotta find out how much space I've got in that loading track. I mean, that is a lot of space. But it's anyone's guess if it's gonna fit. And by the way, this is the track that both sets of tanker cars have to go on. But we gotta back them into there. Let's go back to the back over here and see how much we've got left until the caboose clears this switch. Because right now we have a lot of cars, but there's the caboose right there. So here's the first flat car. It hasn't derailed again. It switched the coupling mechanism again. Alright, and let's see, how are we looking on the loading track? Okay, we got plenty of room on the loading track. So in theory, we actually might have been able to fit the 3 cars. Like we might have gotten the extra 3 tankers if we really wanted to. Because the other option would have been to back up knock off the logistics cars back around that turn, back these up, pull them into the lane that they're supposed to be in, and then run around through the loading track. But instead we're doing it this way. This is going to take longer, but as I've said a million times, I've accepted that the speed bonus just isn't for me. It's just not meant to be. Alright, we still have plenty of space. We might actually be able to fit this entire train on the loading track. Which would definitely solidify the reason that I do this in the first place. Because even a sort of long, heavy train like this can fit. And since I do this specifically so that it'll be able to turn around, alright. 5 cars until we're past the switch. Or 1, 2, 3, 4. Alright, let's go down here and make sure we're still not running off the edge. Because I definitely don't want to love tap that bumper over there. Alright, and there's the last... I'm not the sharpest tool in the shed. That's the switch. We're already past it. Alright, let's grab this. Let's clear the caboose. Don't need it anymore. It's just going to cause us problems. Although, really, I should have cleared the caboose after I had these backed up. So that was a bad decision. Because I would have needed, or I could have used the caboose. There. It's like I could have used the caboose for the extra, like, kilometer of distance with the remote here. Okay, we need to get lined up for G. And then we gotta run over here and get aligned for D. Should be like D4, D2. Alright, D6, 7. Alright, so we're going left. We are going left. D2. That is way too fast. D3. And this is D2. And the good news is it's empty, but the bad news is it's short. Okay, and then we gotta go over here. And we gotta get this switch lined up that way. And this switch lined up this way. And when we're past that switch, we need this switch lined up this way. And let's start slowing down. That was probably too much of an application of the train brake, because now we're going to be really slow. Alright, we gotta speed up. Hit the automatic brake a little too hard. I had enough space. I could have just done like a minimum initial reduction and it would have been safe, but live and learn. It'll be really cool when the simulation update or simulator update comes out and all of the cars have handbrakes. Like you can see there, it's shown as being up there, but I guess they want to make it a little bit more approachable for people that are playing in VR like I am. And they're gonna put the handbrake valve on the sides. It sounds like they're going to put a valve, or they're going to put a wheel on both sides, and a little paint marker so that you can tell if it's set or released from a distance. That's another one of those things that I'm really looking forward to. Yeah, I should really not let off on the throttle just yet. Because this is still a rather lengthy train, and most of it is pretty heavy. Alright. 1, 2. 2 cars left. I really like this game just for the immersion playing it in VR. Okay. I guess I hit another invisible bump in the track. Alright, let's stop it. No, stop it there. Okay, let's make sure we're still within the sign down here. Oh, barely. You gotta be careful with this because it tends to be picky sometimes. Alright, let's go up here. Alright, it is like barely. Alright. If we apply the train brake and then release the train brake, okay. Now, in theory, it might work, it might not. Alright, logistics hall. Alright, at least that pays for one of the times I spawned the caboose. And nothing on the broken cars. Alright. Now for the hard part. Alright, so what we gotta do is go back the way we came, past the C-track, back into the C-track, split apart these two cuts of cars because we're already aligned for C2I. And we're just powering along. Then I can just leave the caboose there. It's not hurting anything. Alright, and then we have this switch right here. We need to go switch. Alright, good. Kill the throttle. After all of these cars are past this switch, I'm going to flip this one so that we're aligned to go back to E. so that everything's still configured to do loops. Is there a refinery? You would think there is, since there is an oil well. So where do they refine? Where do they make gasoline and diesel? Or maybe they don't get it anywhere and they just bring it in on tankers. Or bring it in on ships. Alright, so this is the last car coming out of the D track, or coming out of the spur going to D and G. So any of the tracks that you can run through, I keep them aligned for whatever the main not numbered track is. But the end of the line ones that you can't run through, I just keep them aligned to an inbound track, a loading track, something like that. Just to try to simplify how I conduct operations. Haven't even gotten to the railroad and I'm already trying to be a yardmaster. But when I did my interview, I had to do a video on your possible career paths, and they were like, yeah, that's actually a thing. You start out as a conductor, and then you could become an engineer, or if you're feeling like a more administrative type thing, you can become an operations trainee or a yardmaster trainee instead. And then you go up the management pipeline. So it turns out that actually is a thing you can really do. Oh, okay. Oh, well, that doesn't help me at all because that's the very back of the train. I don't know what's up with the music playlist. Like, it sounds like the song has lyrics, but I can't distinguish like what they're saying. So I think it's someone's voice, but it's like distorted, so you can't really understand it, if that makes sense. It sounds nice, it's fairly relaxing, it's just I can't make heads or tails of what they're saying. Maybe there are words. Alright. Where are my cars? Alright, let's dump off these tankers and call it a day. Actually, no, we can't call it a day yet because we got to get the locomotives back over to the roundhouse and get them refueled. And we burned a lot of fuel going up that hill. Alright. Alright, well, this is the frontmost sign. So, in theory, once the last car is past this point, we can cut them off. Alright, just a couple more cars. I say a couple more cars, and I look over and it's like 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yeah, I didn't do that on purpose. It just happened to be 8. Oh, what could you do? Nothing going on the screen. I think I had a couple of viewers starting out, but I don't think I have them anymore. Alright, 3 cars. Let's get into the sun so we keep the remote charging. Nope, that's probably too soon. Probably just messed it up. Yep. Not even a car length. Alright. A little farther. Okay. Let's cut this. There. Alright, now for the hard part. Alright, 095. Oh, that's easy. We cut here. And once again, this is not how I coupled these cars. And then And this should be 013. It is. Okay. Alright. Knock off the independent. The good news is, if I wanted to start switching these cars around, they get unloaded right here. And we're already aligned, facing the way that we want to. I know it's not implemented in the game yet, but I wish you could activate the bell from here. I mean, I say that and I don't even know what the bell's used for. I just know that whenever you hit the horn in Train Sim World, it activates the bell on most of the locomotives. I don't know, maybe that's a thing? My experience is with driving trucks, not trains. At least not yet, anyway. Alright, so apparently repairing the, or verifying my files, or verifying my game files, did not fix the thing about the weird bumps in the track. So, fingers crossed that that's something that is addressed in... like that's something that's addressed in the simulator update. All right. Let's not stand too close to the tracks. Oh, okay. I thought it was going to be, like, really weird, and, like, it has the horn right there, but then it also has the horn right there. But no, it looks like it just has the horn on the front. And then it doesn't have the thing in the middle. Or it doesn't have the four-way horn in the center. Okay. Let's back up into the roundhouse. Let's turn this off real quick. And we'll repair 77 first. Yeah, the game is just messing with me at this point. Oh, wait, I didn't even turn in the jobs. Alright, let's go over to the station office first. Might as well get paid before I do the maintenance. 30,000, 42,000. Not bad. Alright. So, more than likely that should take care of all of the costs of running the 2 locomotives and spawning the caboose twice. I'm expecting maybe 15,000 a piece for maintenance costs. Alright, knock off the independent. Good news is they're both facing the same direction, so I don't have to turn them around. I mean, honestly, it's not like it makes much of a difference anyway. I wonder if it would actually be better for reception if I paired the remote with the rear locomotive. Like, specifically when I go places like the, where's, oh, it's in the other one, never mind. But when I go places like the goods factory, for example, and you gotta like back around, or you gotta like pull forward through that crazy loop, since I always have the remote paired with my lead locomotive, it's the farthest away from the back of the train. So maybe I would have better signal and less problems using the remote if I paired it with the rearmost locomotive. Although, when the simulator update comes out, I won't be able to use the remote with the DE6 anyway. So I'll probably have to bring along a DE2 just so I can keep playing the way that I've been playing. And then I'll just shove the DE2 at the back of my set of locomotives. At least that seems like a pretty good plan. Go check the weight on that D2 over there and see if it still works. I know it's definitively lighter than these. Actually, let's put it in neutral first. Might try using one of the steam ones next. 38,000. It is not light. But we never thought it was light. Yeah, so that would be a pretty good place for it. Alright, let's do it from the front. Let's do it from left to right. Wheels, body's good. $987. That's 10 grand just on diesel. Huh. Alright, so I wasn't far off, but I was off by a little bit. Alright. Let's get onto the turntable, back into the adjacent slot, kill the engine. I know coolant doesn't leak out of these very often, go over here and make sure that the trucks are still on the turntable. They are. Alright, let's go to the other end. I like the steam locomotives, they're just such a hassle to use. Alright. So yeah, if I want to keep using the remote when I go past switches and things, I'll have to add a DE2 to my list of locomotives. Definitely went a little far. Let's go forward a little bit. About right there. Yeah, that works. Neutral. Kill the lights. Full independent. Alright, kill the engine. Turn off the electricity. Turn the remote back on. Actually, I gotta realign the switch or realign the turntable. Turntable's aligned. Knock off the independent. Throttle up. Let's not stand in the middle of the turntable, as fun as that might be. This is the hardest part about using multiple units. Because you have to connect them, and then you have to break them down and put your toys away individually, and it's just such a pain. One of the things I'm most excited about is the multiple unit servicing. Like, you can see that there are caps for the diesel tanks on that side and on this side. So, we'll be able to refuel from either side. You know what? Let's pull forward a little bit. No. It should be fine. I say it should be fine, and then I compulsively decide to keep moving it. Repair, turn that off. Neutral, kill that, kill that. And let's go refuel this one. Alright. Yeah, coolant doesn't leak very often. But so in the game, the only thing you use the water for is just for the tender for the steam locomotive. But apparently water is used as the coolant for locomotives. You would think they would use antifreeze like we use on trucks, but no, apparently they just use water. They might treat the water with something, but it's mostly just water, apparently. Alright, so there are my 2 locomotives. Now let's go pay some fees. If I do like I'm planning on doing and go to the realistic mode starting out with the simulator update, won't be able to teleport as far, but that won't hurt my feelings too much. Alright, and we had... Oh, we've gotten like approximately $32,000 worth of profit. Or $42,000 worth of profit. Because I had like 1030 something. Now I got 1074, almost 75. So yeah. Another pretty solid trip. Finish playing with the stopwatch or the pocket watch real quick. Put that away, and let's see what we got here. Going to the machine factory. That's a pretty good one. Goods factory. Okay, so some food does come back to the harbor. Those are food factory. Yeah, we got a couple of good ones going to the machine factory. And we got a couple things going to City Southwest. And logistics going to Oil Well Central. So that might be what I work on next time. We'll haul some boxcars, tankers, and some hazmat. Acetylene and cryo-oxygen. It's pretty fitting that this one's hazmat 3, considering how volatile acetylene is. And it wasn't until I got to my organic chemistry class that I found out why. Acetylene is triple bonded carbon. And anything with a triple bond is extremely unstable. It does not want to stay a triple bond if it has a choice. So it'll basically react with like anything. And it'll react violently, like explosive fireball violently. Really fun stuff. But I've been doing this for almost 2.5 hours now, so I'd say that's as good of a stopping point as any. Thank you all for watching, and have a nice day.